Hello, squirrel listeners. Well, I did it again. I missed you yesterday, I think, didn't I? I'm terrible slack. Chapter 5 is called A Golden Wedding. Hitherto they had been a most decorous crew, but the next morning something in the air seemed to cause a general overflow of spirits, and they went up the river like a party of children on a merrymaking. Sylvia decorated herself with garlands till she looked like a mermaid. Mark, as skipper, issued his orders with the true Marblehead twang. What that means. Moore kept up a fire of pun-provoking raillery. Warwick sung like a jovial giant, while the Kelpie danced over the water as if inspired with the universal gaiety, and the very ripples seemed to laugh as they hurried by. "Mark, there's a boat coming up behind us with 3 gentlemen in it, who evidently intend to pass us with a great display of skill. Of course you won't let it," said Sylvia, welcoming the prospect of a race. Her brother looked over his shoulder, took a critical survey, and nodded approvingly. "They're worth a lesson, and she'll have it. Easy now till they pass, then hard awe and give them a specimen of high art." A sudden lull ensued on board the Kelpie while the blue shirts approached, caught, and passed with a great display of science as Sylvia had prophesied, and as good an imitation of the demeanor of experienced watermen as could be assumed by a trio of studious youths, not yet out of their teens. As the foam of their wake broke against the other boat's side, Mark hailed them. "Good morning, gentlemen. We'll wait for you above there at the bend." "All serene," returned the rival helmsman with a bow in honor of Sylvia, while the other two caused a perceptible increase in the speed of the Juanita, whose sentimental name was not at all in keeping with its rakish appearance. "Short-sighted infants to waste their wind in that style, but they pull well for their years," observed Mark paternally as he waited till the others had gained sufficient advantage to make the race a more equal one. "Now then," he whispered a moment after, and as if suddenly endowed with life, the Kelpie shot away with the smooth speed given by strength and skill. Sylvia watched both boats, yearning to take an oar herself, yet full of admiration for the well-trained rowers, whose swift strokes set the river in a foam and made the moment one of pleasure and excitement. The blue shirts did their best against competitors who had rowed in many crafts and many waters. They kept the advantage till near the bend, then Mark's crew lent their reserve strength to a final effort, and bending to their oars with a will gained steadily till with a triumphant stroke they swept far ahead, and with oars at rest waited in the magnanimous silence till the Juanita came up, gracefully confessing her defeat by a good-humored cheer from her panting crew. For a moment the 2 boats floated side by side while the young men interchanged compliments and jokes, for a river is a highway where all travelers may salute each other, and college boys are hail fellow, well met, with all the world. Sylvia sat watching the lads, and one among them struck her fancy. The helmsman, who had bowed to her, was slight and swarthy, with southern eyes, vivacious manners, and a singularly melodious voice. A Spaniard, she thought, and pleased herself with his picturesque figure till a traitorous smile about the young man's mouth betrayed that he was not unconscious of her regard. She colored as she met the gaze of mingled mirth and admiration that he gave her, and hastily began to pull off the weedy decorations which she had forgotten. But she paused presently, for she heard a surprised voice exclaim, "Why, Warwick, is that you or your ghost?" Looking up, Sylvia saw Adam, lift the hat he had pulled over his brows and take a slender brown hand extended over the boat side with something like reluctance, as he answered the question in Spanish. A short conversation ensued in which the dark stranger seemed to ask innumerable questions, Warwick to give curt replies, and the names Gabriel and Attila to occur with familiar frequency. Sylvia knew nothing of the language, but received an impression that Warwick was not overjoyed at the meeting, that the youth was both pleased and perplexed by finding him there, and that neither parted with much regret as the distance slowly widened between the boats, and with a farewell salute parted company, each taking a different branch of the river which divided just there. For the first time Warwick allowed Mark to take his place at the oar, and sat looking into the clear depths below as if some scene lay there which other eyes could not discover. "Who was the olive-colored party with the fine eyes and foreign accent?" asked Mark, lazily rowing. "Gabriel Andre." "Is he an Italian?" "No, a Cuban." "I forgot you had tried that mixture of Spain and Alabama. How was it?" "As such climates always are to me, intoxicating today and Irving tomorrow." "How long were you there?" 3 months. "I feel tropically inclined, so tell us about it." "There's nothing to tell." "I'll prove that by a catechism. Where did you stay?" "In Havana." "Of course, but with whom?" "Gabriel Andre." "The father of the Saffron youth?" "Yes." "Of whom did the family consist?" 4 persons. "Mark, leave Mr. Warwick alone." "As long as he answers, I shall question. Name the 4 persons, Adam." "Gabriel Sen," as in senior, I guess. "Dolores, his wife," yeah, senior. "Dolores, his wife. Gabriel Jr., Catalina, his sister." "Ah, now we progress. Was Senorita Catalina as comely as her brother?" "More so." "You adored her, of course." "I loved her." "Great heavens, what discoveries we make!" "He likes it, I know, by the satirical glimmer in his eye. Therefore I continue. She adored you, of course." "She loved me." "You will return and marry her?" "No." "Your depravity appalls me." "Did I volunteer its discovery?" "I demand it now. You left this girl believing that you adored her." "She knew I was fond of her." "The parting was tender?" "On her part." "Iceberg, she wept in your arms?" "And gave me an orange." "You cherished it, of course." "I ate it immediately." "What want of sentiment! You promised to return?" "Yes." "But will never keep the promise?" "I never break one." "Yet will not marry her?" "By no means." "Ask how old the lady was, Mark." "Age, Warwick?" 7. Mark caught a crab of the largest size at his reply, and remained where he fell among the ruins of the castle in Spain which he had erected with the scanty materials vouchsafed to him, while Warwick went back to his meditations. 7. Oh my gosh. A drop of rain roused Sylvia from the contemplation of an imaginary portrait of the little Cuban girl, and looking skyward she saw that the frolicsome wind had prepared a practical joke for them in the shape of a thunder shower. A consultation was held, and it was decided to row on till a house appeared in which they could take refuge till the storm was over. On they went, but the rain was in greater haste than they, and a summary drenching was effected before the toot of a dinner horn guided them to shelter. Landing, they marched over the fields, a moist and mirthful company, toward a red farmhouse, standing under venerable elms, with a patriarchal air which promised hospitable treatment, and a good cheer. A promise speedily fulfilled by the lively old woman, who appeared with an energetic "shoo" for the speckled hens congregated in the porch, and a hearty welcome for the weather-beaten strangers. "Sakes alive!" she exclaimed. "You be in a mess, ain't you? Come right in and make yourselves to home. Abel, take the men folks up chamber and fit 'em out with anything dry you can lay your hands on. Phoebe, see to this poor little creetur, and bring her down looking less like a drowned kitten. Nat, clear up with your whittlings so they can toast their feet when they get down. And Cynthia, don't wash up dinner just yet." These directions were given with such vigorous illustration, and the old face shone with such friendly zeal, that the four submitted at once, sure that the kind soul was pleasing herself in serving them, and finding something very attractive in the place, the people in their own position. Abel, a staid farmer of 40, obeyed his mother's order regarding the menfolk, and Phoebe, a buxom girl of 16, led Sylvia to her own room, eagerly offering her best. As she dried and refreshed herself, Sylvia made sundry discoveries which added to the romance and enjoyment of the adventure. A smart gown lay on the bed in the low chamber, also various decorations upon chair and table, suggesting that some festival was afloat, and a few questions elicited the facts. Grandpa had 7 sons and 3 daughters, all living, all married, and all blessed with flocks of children. Grandpa's birthday was always celebrated by a family gathering, but today, being the 50th anniversary of his wedding, the various households had resolved to keep it with unusual pomp, and all were coming for a supper, a dance, and a sing at the end. Upon receipt of which intelligence, Sylvia proposed an immediate departure, but the grandmother and daughter cried out at this, pointed to the still falling rain, the lowering sky, the wet heap on the floor, and insisted on the strangers all remaining to enjoy the festival, and give an added interest by their presence. Half promising what she wholly desired, Sylvia put on Phoebe's second best blue gingham gown, for the preservation of which she added a white apron, and completing the whole with a pair of capacious shoes, went down to find her party and revealed the state of affairs. They were bestowed in the prim best parlor, and greeted her with a peal of laughter, for all were in costume. Abel was a stout man, and his garments hung upon more with a melancholy air. Mark had disdained them with an eye to effect, laid hands on an old uniform in which he looked like a volunteer of 1812, while Warwick's superior height placed Abel's wardrobe out of the question. And Grandpa, taller than any of his 7 goodly sons, supplied him with a sober suit, roomy, square-flapped, and venerable, which became him, and with his beard produced the curious effect of a youthful patriarch. To Sylvia's relief, it was unanimously decided to remain, trusting to their own penetration to discover the most agreeable method of returning the favor, and regarding the adventure as a welcome change after 2 days' solitude, all went out to dinner prepared to enact their parts with spirit. The meal being dispatched, Mark and Warwick went to help Abel with some outdoor arrangements, and begging Grandma to consider him one of her own boys, Moore tied on an apron and fell to work with Sylvia, laying the long table which was to receive the coming stores. True breeding is often as soon felt by the uncultivated as by the cultivated, and the zeal with which the strangers threw themselves into the business of the hour won the family, and placed them all in friendly relations at once. The odd lady let them do what they would, admiring everything and declaring over and over again that her new assistants beat her boys and girls to nothing with their tastiness and smartness. Sylvia trimmed the table with common flowers till it was an inviting sight before a viand appeared upon it, and hung green boughs about the room with candles here and there to lend a festal light. Moore trundled a great cheese in from the dairy, brought milk pans without mishap, disposed dishes, and caused Nat to cleave to himself by the administration of surreptitious tidbits and jocular suggestions, while Phoebe tumbled about in everyone's way, quite wild with excitement, and Grandma stood in her pantry like a culinary general, swaying a big knife for a baton as she issued orders and marshaled her forces, the busiest and merriest of them all. When the last touch was given, Moore discarded his apron and went to join Mark. Sylvia presided over Phoebe's toilet and then sat herself down to support Nat through the trying half-hour before, as he expressed it, the party came in. The 12 years boy was a cripple, one of those household blessings which, in the guise of an affliction, keep many hearts tenderly united by a common love and pity. A cheerful creature, always chirping like a cricket, on the hearth as he sat carving or turning bits of wood into useful or ornamental shapes for such as cared to buy them of him, and hoarding up the proceeds like a little miser for one more helpless than himself. "What are these, Nat?" asked Sylvia, with the interest that always won small people because their quick instincts felt that it was sincere. "Them are spoons, 'postle spoons, they call 'em. You see, I've got a cousin what reads a sight, and one day he says to me, 'Nat, in a book I see something about a set of spoons with a 'postle's head on 'em. You make some and we'll sell, and they'll sell, I bet.' So I got Grandpa's Bible, found the pictures of the 'postles, and worked till I got the faces good. And now it's fun, for they do sell, and I'm saving up a lot. It ain't for me, you know, but Mother, 'cause she's worse than I be." "Is she sick, Nat?" "Oh, ain't she? Why, she hasn't stood up this 9 year. We was smashed in a wagon that tipped over when I was 3 years old. It done something to my legs, but it broke her back and made her no use, only just to pet me and keep us all kind of steady, you know. Ain't you seen her? Don't you want to?" And I'm going to stop there. It was my kind of folks. Love their accents. Kindly like mine. I love y'all. Pray for me. I don't find out anything. Tomorrow I go for my consult to get my colonoscopy. Oh, rapture, oh fun. Pray that turns out okay. And I need to call the doctor's office to find out when the CT scan's gonna be. Just keep praying it's nothing. And I appreciate it. Love to all of you. Be sweet, don't be ugly. Bye-bye.